Good morning, everyone.
There it is. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start our meeting here in just a couple of minutes. If you could take your seats, we appreciate it. All right. Well, good morning. Welcome to everybody in the room and welcome to everybody online. Laura, our president, is unable to be with us today. She's a little under the weather, so I'm going to be pinch hitting today for her. And so, for those of you who I don't know, I'm Steve Beebe. I'm the superintendent of the Buckeye Union High School District and ASA president-elect. So, good to be with you this morning. I don't know how you are all feeling, but as we approach the holidays, it's always an exciting time just to know that we're all going to get a little downtime and some time off. So I hope all is well. But to kick things off this morning, I want to invite Thomas from McGraw-Hill, who is our breakfast sponsor, to share a few words with you.
It says up there, Kristen. I'm the artist formerly known as Kristen, right? Incredibly proud and honored to be here to speak in front of you today. I'm the National Career and College Readiness Specialist for McGraw-Hill and have done that for 10 years. So getting out and speaking, and then taught 10 years before that. So getting out and speaking to teachers, districts, leadership is all very exciting. He did mention y'all are going to maybe get some time off. I don't believe superintendents get that. 0 days off. But I wanted to speak to something that has been coming up across the country as I've been talking to people in the career and college readiness space, and it's soft skills, right? Is soft skills the thing y'all are talking about at all, right? Now, we call them soft skills. What do y'all call them? What are some other words that y'all use? Professional skills. What else? Work and life skills. I've heard 21st century skills. I have a little joke for you. It's not a joke. It actually happened to me. My very last principal of my very last school. I don't know if you know this principal, but he was 6'9.5". He was that guy. Good old boy, cowboy hat, Bubba, kindest, most pleasant, the greatest heart for kids that I ever saw. And he said at the very last PD that I went to, hey everyone, I got some information for you. Our job as teachers is to get these kids to get a job and keep that job. And that second part, we kind of chuckled. Y'all didn't chuckle because you maybe know how serious this is. We all kind of chuckled, and he goes, no, that second part, it's short, it's sweet, and keep that job. But these kids, we got kids that can get a job, but then they don't show up on time, or they get a job and they aren't collegial with their friends, their neighbors, and their colleagues. We got some kids who can get a job, but they don't show up with a clean shirt on, and maybe they don't brush their hair, right? So it's some of these employability, 21st century job and career readiness skills. So we've made a commitment at McGraw-Hill that all of our CTE titles, and we have 53 of them, are infused with rich and deep bench of soft skills. So that's simulations, that's test banks, that's reading support, and that is project-based learning, all tied to soft skills. So we want to say to you, our commitment is anything and everything loaded in all of our CT titles is a rich, deep soft skills bench. The second piece, McGraw-Hill difference, is a career center. So we're trying to up the game on helping kids take that RIASEC test. A lot of you, do any of you use RIASEC? Based scoring, that personality exam. Sometimes I talk to teachers and they're like, yeah, we already use something like this. Quick 50-question, 5-minute test, and it puts them on a personality scale and feeds up to 1,000 jobs to them to see what they might be interested in. It tells them the amount of school, the amount of money, the amount of the size of the group, the amount of talking they'll have to do. Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? So really to start getting them moving towards an actual career that would be interesting to them based on their personality. And then finally, we have a smart book. And what that is we know that kids struggle with reading. So we have a thing that nobody else has that algorithmically helps and scaffolds and supports each kid with their reading. So those three pieces loaded inside of all 53 of our CTE titles is really a powerful 1, 2, 3 punch, that it's a complete package. It's all included. It is not kind of above or beyond or extra. So I do quickly, we provided these insulated lunch bags for you. Dr. Pletnick, is that right? Did I get the name right? She had a very funny joke. She said, thanks for the lunch bag. We're all going to put our lunch in it, and we're so busy we forget to eat lunch. And it's the end of the day, and we're still starving, okay? I will say there's no Coke Zero or chicken salad sandwich in here, because we thought maybe that it would spoil. But I just want to walk you quickly what's in here. Oh, there are people online, so I got to stay on the microphone. I'm going to walk you quickly through what's in here. There's a sample request form. If you want a sample of any CTE title that we have, you can fill out this form, and you can leave it with Dr. Gallian at the end of today, and she will collect them and get them to us. I challenge you to flip over to the back. There are 30 computer science titles: AI, robotics, coding, digital citizenship. This is through a partnership with Binary Logic. They're the #1 computer science curriculum provider in the entire world. They just had no presence in America, and we just started this really deep, rich relationship. I love the level up 1 through 12. That is first grade, tech ops, all the way through 12th grade for computer science, AI, robotics, coding, all of that good stuff. Then we've done a course guide for you. So this is just for Arizona, okay? And we have taken every single one of our courses and aligned it to what your state CTE calls a title and what we call the title, and we've done that work of linking those two things for you. Again, on the last page, it goes into those computer science courses, the foundation courses, the skills and pathways, and then the level up program. And then we also have our AP honors and electives catalog in here as well. AP US, AP World, AP Bio, AP Chem. So if you want a sample of anything, you write it on here. We'll leave it over with her over there. I would be remiss if I did not end talking about the 2 new titles that are coming right away. This is coming January 5th, a brand new culinary with a workbook. It's in sponsorship with Johnson & Wales. They wrote the curriculum to help run and create a restaurant and do a kind of an industrial kitchen. And then the next one is Careers and Basics of Agriculture. Okay, y'all, I've been to conferences for 10 years. I've never seen teachers as excited about a program as this title. It is, everyone said everyone's books are old. Everyone's videos are old. Everyone's PowerPoints are old. The guy in the PowerPoint, that guy is dead. He died 10 years ago. And I was like, whoa. So it's so exciting, this course, and it's super updated with drones and sea technology and rooftop hydroponics and beekeeping and all of those things. This title hits the warehouse January 5th, and I could not be more thrilled about it. So do you have anything to add, Larissa? Oh, y'all, we have a little secret, okay? You'll want to look deep in your bag and see if you have a poker chip. Does anyone have a poker chip in their bag? Yeah. Oh, we got poker chips. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Those people with poker chips have oh, look at you. Yeah. Are you a gambling man? Yes. Oh, for sure. Let it ride. We'll put it all on 7. What I was going to say, if you have the poker chip, we want to give you first and full dibs to the titles that are outside, that you can take anything and everything out there that you want. And anything else in closing, Larissa?
No, the poker chips say awesomeness because you guys are all awesome. We thank you for all you do on a daily basis, right? Our kids could not succeed without the leadership that we see in this room. So we're proud to be here today to sponsor you. We're here if you need anything. Our contact information is in that bag as well. So if you reach out to any of us, we'll get it to the right person. And again, just thank you for everything you do. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season as well.
Yep. Thank you. Have lots of turkey. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you again. For everybody online in the room, as always, we always seem to have some tweaks to the agenda due to availability. So unfortunately, this morning we will not have a governor's office update because Aaron is not able to be with us. So we're going to move to our State Board of Education and Sean Ross. So welcome, Sean.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all. Thanks for having us again. Bruce Duplanty's back there. He's with me today. So Paul asked to just have us come and give a quick update on some work happening at the state board. As always, we list our strategic priorities, though. The board will be adopting a new strategic plan, hopefully at the December meeting on December 8th. Just a reminder, there is no November meeting, so the December meeting is always early. It's December 8th. So I want to talk about a couple things that are going to be of real interest. Many of you have heard me talk about this before at other meetings, but just to talk about where we are in the process. So as you know, the contracts for our statewide assessments for math, ELA, and science all expire in 2027. But I do want to clarify something. They expire after the 2027 administration of the exams. So, we will have the current exams for 2 more administrations. So just to make that clear. But the contracts are up soon. So the department, in conjunction with the board, we've kicked into assessment procurement season, looking at building out a scope of work in an RFP for potentially new statewide assessments for math, ELA, and science. I say potential because, as you all know, with an RFP process, you don't know until the RFP process is done. And so we have started the process, and we've begun with surveys. So we did a practitioner survey, kind of a technical survey over the summer, presented that data in an executive summary to the board in the August meeting. And then you all should hopefully have received the statewide survey last week we sent it to Paul, and Paul, I know, disseminated it to everybody. We are asking you to disseminate that to literally everybody, students, parents, teachers, everybody. It really is meant to be a statewide survey. And the survey itself, you'll see, is the same questions as far as content goes, but it's 2 different vocabulary tracks. There's a practitioner track and there's a kind of community member layperson track. They're asking the same sort of content questions, but obviously using some different verbiage. And we're really excited to have those surveys out. We want to get as much stakeholder feedback as possible on what folks are looking for or hoping for from the next statewide assessments before moving into the technical side of the process. And so we really encourage you, if you have not done so yet, to please make sure to fill out that survey and also, again, disseminate that survey. So let's talk a little bit about what we've heard thus far. And again, some of you have probably heard me talk about this a little bit, but it's actually been really consistent. I'll start with high school because high school is the place where there's sort of less potential for change. As many of you may know, the Arizona statute requires that the high school assessment be a nationally recognized college entrance exam. So that's really only going to be a couple of possibilities. And so the high school assessment, that piece is sort of locked in by that statute. So we won't really see as much change there potentially, at least not what's available in the 3rd through 8th grade space. But there are a couple of really important decisions that need to be made at the high school level that are included in the survey and that we'd really love feedback on. And one of which is, when should that first high school exam be given? Right now, ACT Aspire happens at 9th grade and then ACT at 11th, but that's not set in stone. That first assessment could be 9th grade, it could be 10th grade. This was a decision the board and the department and other folks had to make in the last assessment contract, and they kind of put it out, and the feedback they got was that folks wanted it in 9th grade, but we don't want to assume that that's still the case. So we're really looking for feedback from you all about what you think would be best and why, as far as that grade, where that first assessment takes place. For 3rd through 8th grade, currently AASA, this is where there's some real potential for change. And we've heard the 4 bullet points you see up there are the 4 most common pieces of feedback that we've received through multiple cycles now. And the feedback is about interest in an adaptive assessment. If you're curious about what that might look like, Florida, for about 3 years now, has used a stage adaptive assessment for their statewide exam. We actually met with the Florida Department of Education last week. We've met with them before, but we met with them last week for a really deep dive into what does a stage adaptive assessment look like as part of the statewide exam? What are the pluses and minuses? What are the lessons learned? So that was a really informative meeting with them. Year-round administration, Florida also does a version of this. So, and I'm just using Florida as an example. There are multiple states, but Florida in particular, they have a 3-pronged assessment system where the kids take it's the same assessment tool. It's different items, but it's assessing the same standards and it's the same tool. They take one in the one in the fall, one in the winter, one in the spring, and that spring assessment is the statewide exam. So it kind of knocks out one assessment, and those 2 benchmarks are fully aligned to the summative assessment. So that's another piece that people have been asking for, is a fully aligned benchmark component to the summative assessment. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's nothing more frustrating than you assess your kids using your benchmark system. The benchmark says they're going to do really well. They go into the statewide exam and they don't do quite as well. So a fully aligned system is something of real interest. Just another example, Montana has a system of, they call them testlets, where they actually break up the test year round. So for example, if I'm a 5th grade math teacher and I teach fractions in October, I can give the fractions portion of the 5th grade math exam in October. Now, there's no retakes or anything. It all kind of flutters to the end and aggregates and adds up, but it is an interesting idea. So, and I share these statewide examples just to let you know that we're really looking at what's happening nationally to kind of see what's out there and see what's possible. And then the biggest piece of feedback we receive, though it's the most difficult piece, is reporting as fine-grained reporting as possible, right? Reporting at the standard level if possible, so that it's more actionable for teachers, for schools, for kids, for families. You all know that, those of you who've been in education for a long time, you know the tension in this discussion, because in order to get standards-based reporting, you have to have more items in order to meet validity and reliability standards. So there's a tension there about, well, how many more items and what is too many. But anyway, it's something we're looking into, and adaptive assessments help with that. They don't solve it, but they help with that. So anyway, those are the kind of the 4 big pieces of feedback we've received thus far. The one caveat I want to give is, cost carries the day. So at the end of the day, funding is going to be the single biggest factor here. So, while we're in the what would everybody like to see, or what are some things that people would like to see in the assessment space, and we're gathering that, we're taking it very seriously, and we're going to fold it into the RFP, potentially, cost is still going to sort of dominate at the end of the day. So that's some work with statewide assessment. We're really excited about what we're doing in the A through F school accountability space. Many of you probably know, I know we communicate to Paul, and I think he sends the links out to everybody. The board, back in August, started a series of study sessions, and these are deep dives. These are like 90-minute to 2-hour dives into each indicator that makes up the summative letter grade system. So we actually started with proficiency and growth together, because you almost can't separate those two. And then just last Friday, we did English language learners. And so the goal of this, and there's a whole system that we have in place here, is to have these study sessions so that the board members can learn more about the system. But it's more than just the board members. We know that anything we do at the board, there's about 5,000 eyes on it. And so the goal was to help the field learn more about the system as well, really get under the hood and understand the components of it, and then also the issues in it. And you all understand the issues better than anybody. So bringing those issues to light so that the board, and you saw this in the October board meeting, they voted to charge our technical advisory committees, to direct our technical advisory committees to investigate 4 potential changes to the system in proficiency and growth. And they're going to do that for each indicator as necessary. The goal is to get the summative system as healthy and working as well as possible for a number of reasons. 1, obviously to make it a better system, but 2, to make it so that when the new assessment comes, it's plug and play. And then 3, indicator scoring is still coming. The issues that are in the summative system are kind of prevented indicator scoring from coming as quickly as we thought it would. But once the summative system is revised, indicator scoring will come. And then eventually, with the summative system revised and in place, the development of some potentially new models that have been needed for a while for accountability, something like small school K2. So the work the board is doing right now is really, really teeing up massive and important work in the A through F system. But we really encourage you guys, these study sessions are all live streamed on YouTube. They're archived on our YouTube channel. I strongly encourage you or your data people to watch them. They're as deep a dive into the system as you're ever going to get. And we would love feedback as the board is watching them and then voting on potential changes to the system. We would love your feedback on those changes. So right now they're just investigating. It's learn, investigate, potential change. When we get closer to the point where the board may be ready to vote on changes, we of course will reach out and get your guys' feedback as well. Oh, yeah.
Question while you're on this. The proficiency word, the community really struggles with. We have to keep explaining it. When a third grader is not proficient, that means they can't read. No, they just can't read these words. And so that's a constant battle. Is there any way we could change that word to progress or something like that? Because obviously, if you think proficient, you think if I'm proficient in Spanish, I can think it, I can talk it, I can walk it. But that's not what that word means, and it really confuses the public.
Yeah. So to repeat the question, there's some confusion in the public about the meaning of the word proficiency. So the idea is could that word be altered? There's no discussion about that at the moment. I'll be honest with you. I think that confusion would happen. I think a lot of words would cause that confusion. Right now, those descriptors are so embedded into sort of statute and rule. The bigger fights are sort of cleaning everything up, and then we can look at nomenclature. But yeah, not at the moment. I hear you though, but it's not something that's sort of on the radar at the moment. So just a quick review of the October board meeting. The October board meeting was really A through F heavy. The board voted on cut scores, so letter grades were released a couple days after that, as you all know. The board voted on the processes for appeals. I'm really proud of this. I think I say this to you guys each time, but I'm going to say it each time because I'm proud of it. We have done a lot of work to make this process more transparent for you. The department, huge shout out to Sean Smith from the department. They've added the mathematical formulas to the business rules. We've made the technical advisory committee meetings. Those are open meetings. We have that buffer month in September now where the board hears a presentation on cut scores but doesn't vote till October. That way you guys all have an extra month to run your letter grades and reach out to the department to fix things before the letter grade release happens. And we know it's working because 3 years ago, the board averaged about 175 appeals per year, which isn't a ton considering the number of schools. But 2 years ago, when we implemented all this, we had, I think, 55. Last year, we had less than 40. And I think this year, again, we have about under 40. So we know it's working. You all aren't having to appeal as much. And so we're really proud of that. We want a clean letter grade release the first time. And then the board did vote to direct the technical advisory committees to investigate some possible changes to growth and proficiency. And then you probably saw in the press a couple of items that were put forward by ADE to potentially open the professional teaching standards, which are used by ed prep programs, and the SEI course frameworks, which are used to design the SEI endorsement coursework that higher ed districts, others do for revision. The board had some questions about those requests, and so they voted to table the item until December. So just some upcoming board topics to keep an eye out for. Those two items will be at December, the ones I just talked about, the requests for opening those two documents for revision. The board will vote to adopt its strategic plan in December. For those of you who are affiliated with alternative schools, I'm sure you know this already, the double ATAC, the Alternative A through F Technical Advisory Committee that the board oversees, they've been working for about 8 months on revising the rubric for alternative school status. They've done this very publicly. They've surveyed to my knowledge, they've surveyed every alt school in the state at least a couple of times. They've finalized that rubric, and so the board will be voting on it. The board hasn't voted to adopt that since 2014, so it was due for some revision. There are some rulemaking items related to CTE endorsement, CTE teacher leader endorsement, and then gifted endorsement. We'll eventually vote on A through F school letter grade appeals. We have an annual teacher recruitment and retention report that we work on with the department that's presented in January every year. And then we have 2 vacancies currently. Very sadly, Dr. Kaur, who was our community college president, Stepped down after 9 years. For those of you who knew him, I mean, beloved member of the board, had been vice president and president for 7 of those 9 years. He is retiring from AWC, so he stepped down from the board. And then Julia Meyerson, who was an amazing board member, who was our charter rep, had stepped down back in June. We have been told that we should have those 2 seats filled, hopefully by January. So be kind of back to a full board relatively soon. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Clarification, when you talked about the Pearson contract, so it's 2 more years.
Yeah, so thank you. So the question was about clarifying the dates for the assessment contracts. So the current contracts with Pearson run through June of 27. So you're going to administer the tests spring 26, spring 27, new assessments administered spring 28.
It's not 2 more years in addition.
Right. There's 2 more years with the current. Well, yeah. Sorry. No, you're right. Sorry. Yes. So it's this year, next year, and then the new assessment. We actually started early. We started the procurement process almost a year early. But we did that on purpose because we knew there might potentially be some significant change, especially in that 3/8 space. And we wanted to make sure to give ADE a ton of time for implementation with you all, so that in case there were, and there may not be, but in case there were dramatic changes to the test, they would have time to really help you all with not only the logistics of administering that test, but also like looking at items, looking at sample tests, helping get your kids ready. So we built, if it seems like it's, because relative to previous contracts that usually happen around 8 months before they're expiring, we jumped in early because we wanted more time for you all to get comfortable if there's a new assessment. Other questions? All right, well, Bruce and I are at the back if you have any questions, and we'll be here until you all kick us out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. And if you haven't taken the time to provide feedback on the assessments, make sure you take the time to do that. Next, on our agenda then, we have Michelle Udall here from the Arizona Department of Education to give us all an update. So welcome, Michelle.
Hello, thank you for having me. The main thing I wanted to share is that the new comprehensive needs assessment graphs are live. They have been for a while now. They still have the little warning. I'll show you why that warning's still there because there's still one thing I'd like to fix on them. Let me get in here real quick. I'll show them to you first, and then we'll play with them a little bit, and I'll show you the one bug I'm still trying to fix. It doesn't affect any of the data, but I just want it fixed. So, these are the graphs. There are quite a few differences, but they're all minor. So for example, if we go to the proficiency, so the ELA and math proficiency are on the same graph, but you just select up here, you can choose whether you want ELA or math. You can also choose, I'm gonna pick a school. Does anyone have one they want me to use? Okay, what do you want? O'Connor. Sandra J. O'Connor High School. Okay. So if I'm looking at a specific school and I happen to know what the grade level is, I can either choose the school type, and these are the letter grade labels, or I can actually go in and say, well, the only tested grade is 11th, so I only want to compare it to other 11th graders. So if you are, for example, have a middle school you're comparing, you can just choose whatever middle school grades, and it will only compare it to other middle school students. That's a lot better apples to apples comparison than we've had in the past, where it lumped all the K-8s together and then all the high schools together. You can choose precisely what grades you serve, tested grades you serve. Only the tested grades are listed here. And then you're only being compared to those. The other main difference is, it's kind of hard to see because it's far away, but the dots are colored instead of there being lines that show the bands and you have to try and figure out which color you're in. The dots are actually colored. And those adjust when you do the filters, so it will adjust to where you need to be. So if I choose math instead of English, you'll see everything shifts to where it is for that school. You can also select the school either from the very beginning on that first introduction page, or you can select it on the page with the graph and it will stay there. So that's really the main changes on these scatter plots. This is just one of the subgroup graphs. Again, there are a couple filters here. So rather than being separate graphs that you're trying to figure out which is which, you just filter for what you want to see. And then the gaps are already calculated for you. Other than that, those are the big changes. And then there are a couple bonus graphs, and these are kind of some of my favorite things. This is a longitudinal graph, and we've had requests for this for years. We will probably add some other longitudinal graphs also. Oops. Mouse decided to take a dive. We'll eventually add some other longitudinal graphs, but this shows the last 3 years. What's really fun about this, I'm going to clear this and choose another school. Let me just choose, I'm just going to choose a random elementary, something that has some elementary grades. What's fun about this is that I can choose a specific grade level. So if you have a program that's impacting a specific grade level and want to see what its impact has been in the last couple of years, you can see that longitudinal data for just a single grade or a couple grades that you were implementing a new program in, and see what has happened over time, or if you had a teacher change. Some of these, when you pull them up, you look at it and you say, I think they had a new teacher there because something's different. Sometimes when you choose a single grade level, there's a big dip, or a big explosion in the data. So that one's a really fun one to play with. But my favorite new graph happened by accident. As I wanted, a lot of people have requested a growth graph so they can look at growth. And so I was making that one. And as I was doing it, I was coding the colors, or I was coding the graph. I started out by copying and pasting the proficiency graph over and then put growth in instead of proficiency, but I hadn't yet fixed the formulas that determine what color everything is. And so what happened was a graph that looks like confetti vomit, but what you're seeing is both growth and proficiency on the same graph. So for example, this school, it's the school that I had selected on the last one. This school is not only purple, the color is showing you the proficiency band that it's in. So it's purple, so it's in that highest proficiency color, but it's also high growth. And so you get to see, for example, if I look at this school right here, or let's look at this one. This one is the lowest band for proficiency, but look at that high growth happening. So you get to see what schools are taking kids that are way behind and really, really growing them. And this is just using the student growth percentile. So this isn't using the growth points that we use in the letter grades. It's using the actual student growth percentile. So it's saying, of all the kids that scored the same last year, how did your kids compare statewide? So this is an incredible graph, and you see some really great things. Like you'll see a school down here that has pretty good proficiency, but clearly is not growing the kids. But you also see some up here that are really growing the kids, but have still low proficiency. It's kind of a lagging indicator. That's where you'll start to see we expect to see higher proficiency in the next couple of years because they're really growing the kids that they have. So that's a fun graph to play with. This is not one you'll use to do your comprehensive needs assessment. This is just a bonus graph because it was something that was requested. I never ended up changing the colors to the bands because we didn't need it for the comprehensive needs assessment, and this has a lot more data on it. Again, it looks like confetti vomit. But it's very instructional confetti vomit, in my opinion. So Hopefully you get some use out of those and it helps you ask some good questions. Now, the purpose of these graphs is that when you look at something, okay, remember I told you I was going to tell you why that note is still up? See what happened here, how the dots got all blobby? I hate that. And it happens if you, what happened was I had 11th grade selected on this graph, remember, because we had been using that one. It had 11th grade, but the school didn't have any 11th graders, so it made them all blobby. Sometimes if you just choose, let's see if it does it on this one. Sometimes if you just choose something without a school selected, the dots will get big and blobby, and that's the bug that I'm trying to get fixed, but there's no easy workaround for it. So, sorry about that. But let's say I choose, I'm just going to choose a quick elementary school that might be a little bit, it's actually in a pretty good spot. Okay. So they're in this blue band. I happen to know that that school is a K6. So I really want to only compare it to other schools that have those same tested grades. So if I am this school down here, the goal is really to look at what schools are above me on this line. You'll notice that a few of these dots, I'm not sure if you can see it from where you're at, a few of these dots are darker. Those are dots, those are schools in the same district. So if I want to look for schools in my district that have similar demographics but are outperforming me, this is how an easy way to find it. Or if I want to look and see who from another district has similar kids, similar demographics, similar free and reduced lunch level, but is doing better, this is where you find that information. So you can look it up by proficiency, by growth. If we wanted to look at who's doing a really good job with getting kids proficient in English, your ELs proficient in English, same thing. I look at where my school is and I go straight up to see who is outperforming my school in that metric. And then hopefully that provokes some conversations about, hey, what are you guys doing that's working there? Same thing with the growth one. Look at who's really growing those kids that may be in the same band as yours from last year, but now are growing them at a higher level. And that's what you want to do, is look straight above your dot. And those will be kids that are in the same free and reduced lunch category percentages, but that have higher on that metric. The only other thing I want to point out is on the chronic absenteeism one. This has been the same every year. But we flipped the y-axis because high chronic absenteeism is bad. So we wanted it at the bottom of the graph, and low is good. So we just wanted it to mirror. We always want above the line to be kind of the aim. And so when you're looking at that graph, notice the 0% is at the top and 100% is at the bottom. So it's just an upside down, just when you're looking at that. And I think that's it. We're continuing to work on the planning tool. Should be ready very soon, so that you can start doing it. The reason it's not ready yet is we are trying to implement a little bit of a change to it so that some of those extra questions, some of the ones that are required by statute that we have you answer, especially for Title I and targeted Title I programs, we're trying to make an option that if you want to just upload your strategic plan and the answers to those questions are in there, you don't have to cut and paste it into the grant. You can just check a box that says, that's in my strategic plan. Here, I've uploaded my plan. So we're working on making sure that that is functional for you, because we'd rather have less work on your side, even if it takes us a little bit longer on our side to then find it in your strategic plan. That's fine, as long as it's there somewhere. That way you're not having to cut and paste and move things over and retype. So I think that's all I have. Oh, I said I'd show you how to get here. So it's in the exact same place as the old ones. In fact, the old ones are just right underneath. They're the last 3 years of them. The easiest way that I get to it, well, I mean, I always have it open, I think. But if you can get to it through all the links, but it's a bunch of clicks, I would recommend just do a search. And if you type in comprehensive needs, okay. If you type in comprehensive needs in the search, it is the first thing that comes up, and it will take you straight there. Okay, so that's the easiest way to get there. You'll want it on full screen. That's this button. We're working on a user's manual for it. It's very nearly done. That will step you through every single part of it. Oh, I forgot one other thing to show you. That's what happens when I go off script. So we have these filters here, but we also have added a couple tabs here. This one tells you how to use this to answer the CNA questions. So it steps you through what to do in the filters when you're ready to answer the CNA questions. And then this one tells you about the data. Where did we get that data? And what does it mean? So they're pretty short because there's limited space here. But each of the graphs has some information over here on how to use this for the CNA and then where that data came from and what it means. So hopefully that's helpful. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking on behalf of a friend of mine.
Sure.
On your free reduced price lunch
Yes.
numbers, that friend was telling me that maybe they weren't matching what they were thinking for their schools. So that friend was
Yep.
wondering about that.
That friend was just wondering that. Okay, so what we do is we use the student eligibility rate as reported in AZEDS, and we compare that to the free and reduced price percentage report that is done through Health and Nutrition, and we take the higher of the two. That's how we're getting that number. So if it's not the same, I don't know what to tell you. That's... So see this right here? That is in the About panel where it says it right here. We look at the student level eligibility rate as reported by AZ. So we're counting the number of students, the percentage of students that qualify on a student by student line from the static file. And we're then comparing that to the health and nutrition report that we send to the federal government and that percentage. And whichever one comes out higher, that's what we're using. Does that make sense? So there are a bunch of schools that don't participate at all and don't collect that data. That's why there's a line of here. There are also a bunch that do the community eligibility provision where everybody's eligible. That's why there's a big line there. That's because we're taking the higher of the two to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. It's a good question though. But yeah, that's one of the reasons that we put the data page here, because that question comes up a lot. Does that make sense giving that context? Okay. That person. Right. Any other questions? Okay. That's all I have for you then. Thank you. Unplug everything.
Thank you.
Thanks. Don't trip on the
Oh,
cables
I'm
that
good.
I left behind.
You got it?
Probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think we downloaded all their stuff, so we're good to go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michelle. Never let it be said that in education we don't have a lot of friends, and a lot of our friends have questions. So, anyway, well, thank you for being here. This morning we do not have an AIA update because David Verdugo could not be with us and Jim Dean could not be with us, but they did want the group to know that even though they couldn't be here today, in the upcoming December ASBA ASA conference, they will be having a session. The AIA will be doing a session on ESAs, transfers, and other issues that we're all experiencing with that. So if you're planning on attending that conference, you can attend one of their sessions and ask as many questions as you'd like for you and your friends about things that are going on in the AIA. So we're going to move on then, and we're going to invite up Dr. Rosemary Lamacchia with NAU to talk a little bit about teacher retention.
And I'll pull that down. Oh, that would be good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you.
I am here on behalf of NAU, yes, but also on behalf of the higher ed division from ASA. We have been working on topics to bring research and practice together for, oh gosh, probably a year and a half now. And we, in fact, in one of these meetings, elicited from you about a year ago now topics that were of most interest and need in your sites. And we came up with, 6 or 8 of, many things: student engagement, student attendance, school closures, teacher retention. And teacher retention came up number 1 here. And then my colleague Robin Conrad Hansen and Lynette Brunderman and I shared this at the United Conference, NAESP, NASSP. Andy was there about, a year and a half ago, something like that. And again, asked for them to elicit topics. Number 1, teacher retention, quality teacher retention. And there were other topics, of course, that the higher ed division has been working on and is working on, but I said I would take this one in a lead because I, at NAU, have the Dell and Jewel Lewis Endowed Chair, and that provides me with resources. And this one, because it was such a large need and so complex, which we've heard from research, but we've heard from you as well, it's going to take a while. So with that, and I zipped through that. Oops. Where am I aiming this, Paul? Back there? Maybe? I can keep talking. Most of you know I can, but... Oh, there it comes. Okay, thank you. It has a delayed reaction. It's Friday. It's tired too. So we knew this was going to be long-term and complex. And so I felt like it's beyond, and we all felt that way at the higher ed division, it's beyond that. Thank you. And so we have a group now that I'm working with multiple perspectives from multiple organizations. Oopsie. And we'll get it back. I swear I didn't do anything to this, and I can do such thing. So on there, we have superintendents. There we go. From across the state, Dr. Dan Streeter is on here working with that. The newly minted Dr. Monica Mesa from the Mesa School District in the Valley is working with us. Paul, of course, from ASA. We have people from ADE that are working on this because we all know they've been working on this too. And other groups that really are vested in this. Thank you. And looking at multiple angles, multiple perspectives. So we thought, okay, let's pull it together and have us work together on this and be able to share. Oop. There we go. Now, this has only become more important and of interest. And it's just been in the last couple of weeks, we see sites on newspapers and from ADE and other sources saying that 1,000 teachers have left our classrooms in Arizona since July. And we have 4,000 vacancies, this just came out from ADE, that are not yet filled in Arizona. And so that means, and I don't have to tell you this, we have substitutes if we can get them. Or the principal is in there. I mean, I have a student who, Andy knows him, Ryan Chi, who's in Flagstaff Unified. He's often teaching a class all day. And then he's principal at night and he's working on his dissertation. So, I mean, these things are happening. There's so many stories about this. So then we're like, why? Okay, so the question becomes why, and what are the whys? It's plural, and it's contextual in certain ways. This is what Dr. Richard Ingersoll shared with us in June. We brought him in, he gave a talk, and I think a number of you were there, and he shared with us what he's been doing pre-post-COVID to look at the reasons why teachers are leaving. They have a lack of voice, a lack of autonomy. As Ryan Chi would tell us, and others, they have a lack of sovereignty, right? And in school decision making, and they don't feel like they have a voice as a teacher. Teacher salaries, and we know in ADE they're going to work on this, and that's great, and a number of districts are as well. And then this one, I've read it in a number of places: dissatisfaction with the principal and other leadership and administration. Okay, there's been that. And this is what teachers tell us, right? So, oopsie. Might need my friend back up here. Friends. Oh, there we go. Oops, nope, went back. Too fast. Okay. So we're going to look at this a bit more with the project that I'm leading on research and practice on teacher retention. But to begin, I'd like us to take a little bit of time at our tables, or you can move. Curtis, you're by yourself over there now, I think. You can move and find friends to really talk about your ideas, what you're seeing, thinking about why teachers are leaving in your setting, and why are they staying? So it might be you have exit interviews. It might be you've been talking to teachers that have been there, your mentors and so on, your teacher mentors, your experienced teachers. Why are they staying? People are doing different things. And then what might be some initiatives that you're doing to support teacher retention? Just begin to talk about some ideas at this point, and I'm going to give you 5 minutes-ish, and then we'll share out a bit. So with that, just turn to people around you and kind of talk about this a little bit, debrief some of what we're hearing, and then we'll share. Look at this. It fell off on the floor. Oh, there they are. They're under here. I walked back and I'm like, for crying out loud. This is what I do at Christmas time too, as I'm sure it was you. So I'm going to pull you together. I'd like us to share out just a couple of thoughts or insights. Could have been one of yours or one that you heard at the table. I know it's hard to stop talking about this because it's just so important for everybody now. Who was it? Roger, maybe? Somebody. Back here. Can you share what you were talking about with the teacher generation piece and who to ask about this? Oh, Gail. Okay, Gail, go. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yep, exactly. Thank you. We've been finding that. We'll talk about that. Go ahead, Roger. Yeah.
If they've been in an institution for a while, their insights will be different than if they're new and they're just not getting what they want. So,
Yeah, exactly. Good. Thank you. What about, I'm sorry, what about back over here? Dan, Curtis, somebody? Go ahead, Curtis.
I believe that the answer to the riddle is the building principal. They are the single most important person in your district. If you have good principals, all the rest of that goes away. If you have bad principals, all that works is away.
Fabulous, thank you. And I promise I did not cue him into the next slides here, though we do know a lot of this piece. Delayed reaction. Oh, there we go. This is, by the way, a global problem. And I don't know if you've heard any of this from UNESCO, United Nations. It's not just Arizona or US. This is a study, this is like Michelle was saying, her favorite graph. This is my favorite figure of all time, and it shows what you're talking about, Curtis. This was from a study conducted in the UK. And probably, it's still ongoing, but it started about 2 years ago. And what they found, didn't set out to find this, but they wanted to know why teachers leave or why they stay. And teachers who were new, like early career teachers, and those who are more experienced, 5-10 years of experience, good teachers. So why are they staying, right? And why are they leaving? Well, as Richard Ingersoll has found multiple times and others, there's this sense of organizational conditions. There's pay and workload. There's collaboration. There's dispositions where they feel like, yeah, I can stay here. People are listening to me. All of these things. Then guess what? It's the school principal that affected all of these statistically significantly more for good teachers to stay than to leave. And these are the kinds of practices that they did. And I got very excited about this. I won't go on time, but I got very excited about this because I am in a study. I've been in it, for years, decades almost, studying principal leadership that contributes to student academic outcomes, well-being, and quality of life for all children. The kinds of things we've been talking about this morning. And these are the practices we find as well. It's exciting stuff. Now, mind you, it's not in Arizona, but it's going to be. And so on this project, we really wanted to create a multi-dimensional structure that would include seated superintendents, principals, ADE, people from multiple contexts and districts that are really working on this in organizations, including ASA. And so I get excited about that figure because it's research, but even more so about research that connects to practice in a dialogue. So we're really going to work on this as a project. There we go. These are some of the initiatives. So first of all, we're going to replicate that UK study in Arizona. So it will be broadly US, but because I'm paying for it, we're starting in Arizona. And that it's, at the end of the day, it's all about Arizona. So we're going to work on that. We're going to replicate it. Ken Leithwood is going to consult on this, as is Chingu. They're worldwide experts in this, and work with us. We're going to have virtual, but also regional face-to-face meetings where people can do what you did just now. They're going to share. Looking at patterns, why people stay, why people leave, and we're going to make it contextual. So the importance of the district and where that district is located will be considered. The history of that region, the culture, all of that will be considered. And we'll bring events together like I did in June. We want to do one in this area in February. We'll see. We're still working on that. And really, with this research work and our experiences, how this is working in dialogue, those two pieces together, to be able to advocate and share with policy leaders. So it's not, working it on the same project, but from two different layers and angles. I'll get it on this last slide. I think. There we go. So again, there's the research practice event we want to do here. There is one that is on that international study of successful principals that I mentioned, and it will be in Granada, Spain, where we bring researchers who study principals from all over the world together along with practitioners. And that is in November 2026. So stay tuned for that. Oops. And with that, I probably don't have time for questions, but I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm inviting. I'm not paying unless somebody's collecting a hat back there, but or a sponsor. Let's get sponsors for that. I don't know that we have time for questions, do we, Paul? I gotta move. No, he says no. All right, come on. So the next one's just a thank you. If I could get the darn thing to move. There, thank you. And to be continued. Thank you very much. There we go.
Okay, well, moving on to the last item on our agenda for this morning, we're going to invite Mark Marnes up here to give us some legislative updates.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to be with you today. I want to cover a couple legislative items for the upcoming legislative session, and if there's time, we can talk about the capital lawsuit and APS rate increase, but we may not have time to do that. So as every January, the legislative session starts second week in January, starts January 12th this year. We're going to see education as one of the major issues that are presented in the form of bills. This is the last session before an election year, so you typically have extra amount of activity. A lot of legislators want to make points by introducing bills, and they'll later stump on those bills. So we'll see an extra number of bills. What I think is new and different this coming session is sort of an I'll call it a direct assault on the model where a school district hires a leader based on their own terms and some general statutory guidance. I think we'll see some legislation that will infringe upon that in some detrimental ways. I know of at least 4 or 5 of these proposals that do these in different ways. One, just list a couple of them off. One that would make the superintendent's contract probationary for a number of years. One would be something we've seen in the past where a payout for a termination couldn't be made. And there's others I could go into. One on transparency. Some of you have been contacted by the news to talk about the contract for the assistant superintendents on up. And so we're going to see some legislation on transparency. I think we can, I kind of think it'd be like the Epstein files. Let's get these superintendent contracts out there. I kind of laugh because the superintendent of public instruction, the annual report put out by the superintendent has your salaries in it, has for 20 years, may not have the phone allowance or the car allowance or other things, but it's in there. Public record, it's been there for years. So I'll probably send that into the entire legislative committee before they see this bill. So the legislature is going to hear these bills. I've asked, I'm trying to make them House-only bills, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. But I would encourage those of you that work with other groups, and if your district themselves has a lobbyist, to take these things seriously, because some of you have told me, well, they'll just be vetoed. Well, maybe they'll be vetoed this year, but we don't know what the future looks like. Maybe there's not a governor that's willing to veto them. And also, if there's 5 or 6 bills and one makes it, maybe a less offensive one does get signed. So I would take them seriously. Just because the discussion out there is actually bad to have, depending on how the narrative is framed. So that's out there. And then on legislative things we're working on, we're working on a literacy coach proposal that's coming together. We have the Joint Legislative Budget Committee looking at some different AEL revisions that could be made if the circumstances align to put an AEL bill on the ballot. That is, we could get it there and the people would vote yes on it. If we hit those criteria, we want to make sure we have something in hand to use. And so we're working on some analysis of that through the budget staff at the legislature. And then inaccessible cash, we're going to put in play a piece of legislation to try to take care of that issue, allow you to use those funds for needs of the district, and also prevent the accumulation in the future by recognizing where those funds come from. Okay, then I will say that the state has got a lot of fiscal challenges. The big beautiful bill, when it came, the state looked at it and said, "Oh, this is expensive." It's got about $400 million in federal tax issues that, when the state conforms, will cost the state $400 million or $500 million. And so the state's kind of trying to figure out how to grind that into their system. And then there's a couple other provisions, one in SNAP, one in Medicaid, that costs the state money long term. So it's a new shock to the system, not a lot of money to hand out. And then two other things. So I want to present a certificate of completion to Jeff Sprout, because Jeff Sprout volunteered to spend every Monday morning for the last, 6 months or so on a legislative call where all sorts of things were discussed, and Jeff would be there to lend the district perspective. So, Jeff, I'll hand you this completion certificate for donating your Monday morning to something I will call the Farnsworth Experience. And
It's very custom. On the back of that. Kristen Turner.
And also, yes, Kristen Turner as well, and some of my other lobby colleagues as well, also observed it or participated. But we prevented anything bad from happening on that Monday morning call. Okay, one last thing. There is a new chair of the Senate Education Committee. She's a rural legislator. And so I think there's more opportunity for rural influence at the legislature. I'm going to put together some opportunities for rural superintendents to come visit with their legislator in a structured way. Probably, include a lunch with some of the education leaders that are rural legislators. So I'm going to put that together. It may not be just with ASA superintendents. It will be superintendents I draft from around the states that match up with legislators from that area. So I'm going to put something together on that either last week in January or first week in February. And then a couple of things. We've got a meeting coming up with the Speaker's office and a couple other things we're working on. Either to try to create an uphill battle on the offensive contract infringement bills, and then lay some groundwork on some other things. So happy to take any questions. I don't know if, Paul, if there's time to legitimately work on the capital lawsuit. It's okay. We're not going to talk about the capital lawsuit, but happy to answer a question. It looks like.
Two things, Mark. A group of WMAC superintendents, CFOs met with Senator Andy Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, she said there will be legislation on super. So the House-only piece might not really happen. The other thing I wonder if it's on your radar, it's on ours, and it's the non-fundable intervals and the ways in which they're clawing back money that we believe is not consistent with state. I don't know if that's on your radar from a legislative perspective.
Paul.
Thanks, Scott. The non-fundable intervals, that's, as I understand, there was a webinar or a meeting last week from ADE about that. I was not able to attend it, but I had a conversation yesterday actually with Jake Logan, the Charter School Association CEO, and he's said they're very concerned about it. So we actually were talking about perhaps strategizing where both organizations are kind of jointly pressing this issue. He's got an inquiry to ADE and is awaiting a response. So it might be common ground for both charters and districts to work together on that issue. But it's definitely an issue, and I think we're running short on time. But in short, they're looking to take back some of the funding for days when kids, and some of it I believe also is illegal. Particularly, there's no exclusion for homeless kids, and I think that would contradict the McKinney-Vento Act. So there's probably more to come on that, but it just looks, I don't know the motivation. It looks like maybe to reduce funding to districts and charters because they know they're going to have a fiscal ask of the legislature like they did last year at the end of this year to say, look, we have a budget shortfall for vouchers. And so they're going to ask for more money to fund the ESA vouchers because it's higher than what was allocated in the state budget.
Paul, can you explain just real quick, is the non-fundable, non-funded intervals, are those the days that students take absence?
As I believe it's with a 10-day, even excused absences, so long-term suspension or, known medical conditions, homebound, all of these things, if they're not receiving homebound instruction, but they're, let's say a kid's in a hospital, all of that, they'll retroactively, so after the 100th day, they'll say, well, we're going to subtract these days. And Scott, looks like you would.
They're already 8.5 FTE from us as a result of non-fundable intervals. We're talking to principals about how that data is being collected. I think we should really get an AG opinion on it because I think it goes beyond what's in this. I think it's an illegal taking and eventually a lawsuit, but 8.5 FTE during the course of the year, so not even waiting for the 100th day, they're already saying, okay, you don't get funded for this because these kids more than and it's not just 10 consecutive where we drop it's this
Cumulative. And, we're in a state that, has the worst chronic absenteeism. And so, the districts are still expending resources to try to get those kids back into school and to help with attendance, and then they're being, penalized for that. Roger.
Well, we had that happen, I think, about 3 years ago, and again, called them and got with the data people, got hard. So one of the issues they had is they didn't think they had the data really to execute, but once the attendance data they thought was pretty complete, those two had. We didn't know the rule, understand the rule, and coming in arrears was a problem. So our people started working with the NAU folks who house all our data and do all that to try to get out in front of where we could get flags on kids who may be becoming, eligible through absences, have a fiscal impact. And of course, I'm retired. I don't know what the progress on that work is, but we were trying to. If you can't change the rule, at least be out in front of it and manage it.
Well, and so one of the questions that really needs to be answered is there's no change in statute, obviously, but is this a change in AD policy or a reinterpretation of existing statute? And I know we're out of time on this. Maybe in the superintendent's division, you have time to continue the dialogue. So I'll let Steve just state, he doesn't even have to do it. I'll just say it's time to transition to division meetings. So thanks everyone online, and we'll change slides so you can see where to go. Thank you.